परम वंदनीय माँ शारदे, आदरणीय अतिथि महोदय एवं सभी आगंतुक महानुभाव, सर्वप्रथम मैं अश्विनी कुमार सभी को विवेकानंद जयंती की हार्दिक बधाई देता हूँ, शुभकामनाएं देता हूँ तथा मैं चाहूँगा कि हम सभी लोग स्वामी विवेकानंद जी के विचारों का चिंतन करें, अध्ययन करें और उन्हें अधिक से अधिक अपने जीवन में उतारने का भरसक प्रयास करें। तभी हमारा यह विवेकानंद यूथ लीडरशिप कन्वेंशन मनाना सार्थक होगा।
Vivekananda Youth Leadership Convention brings eminent personalities who, with their extraordinary attitude, achieve their goals. We must learn from them. Merely praising is not enough. We have to imbibe the best qualities in ourselves. Such iconic figures are among us, and we are extremely privileged to have our three outstanding leaders with us. Ms. Arunima Sinha, the first female amputee to have climbed Mount Everest. Remarkable accomplishment. I think exemplifying courage, strength, and determination. The values that Swami Vivekananda strongly called upon. Ms. Bhakti Sharma, the youngest female in the world to have conquered 7 seas, including 4 oceans, and signifies that where the willpower is strong enough, then no any difficulty can stop you. Mr. Pramod Kumar, who although had pursued his academic interest in mechanical engineering from IIT Madras, but eventually followed his natural inclination toward Indian culture and heritage. On the behalf of Indian Institute of Technology Kanpur, I heartily welcome our esteemed guest in the today's evening. And now I invite one of the volunteers from the Swami Vivekananda Samiti to welcome our esteemed guests by giving them bouquets. Now, to begin today's evening of National Youth Day, we have Mr. Pramod Kumar, who did his bachelor's in mechanical engineering from IIT Madras in 2000. He was the founding member of Vivekananda Study Circle at IIT Madras. He was employed as a system engineer in Tata Consultancy Services, Hyderabad, before he left the software industry behind to pursue his interests in Indian culture and spirituality. He worked as a national coordinator of International Forum for India's Heritage. Then, in 2003, he joined Amrita School of Engineering. He is also the convener of Human Excellence Program at Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Coimbatore. He was the recipient of Yuva Shakti Youth Achievers Award 2005 for his commitment and contribution in spreading awareness of India's rich cultural heritage. His articles and reviews are published regularly in the magazines like the Vedanta Kesari and the Yuva Bharati. This week itself, he has released a book on Swami Vivekananda, the model for the modern youth. This book will be available in the Vivekananda Samiti's library. So I would like to invite Mr. Pramod Kumar to share his thoughts about Swami Vivekananda, the icon of youth and self-confidence.
Dear friends of the Vivekananda Samiti, faculty members and students of this reputed institution, IIT Kanpur, Namaste, and a very good evening to all of you. Today is a historic day. It is the 12th of January, the National Youth Day, Swami Vivekananda's birthday. In 1984, the then Prime Minister, Rajiv Gandhi, thought it fit to declare the birthday of Swami Vivekananda as the National Youth Day. Today also marks the culmination of the year-long 150th Jayanti celebrations which started last year. So I feel blessed, I feel happy to be spending this day with the Vivekananda Samiti at IIT Kanpur. I'm also keenly aware that I'm in the presence of some extraordinary achievers who are here with us today. And I feel humbled in their presence. I cannot claim such achievements for myself, but I believe that I'm here because in the last 10 years, I've been trying to communicate some ideas inspired, derived from the life and teachings of Swami Vivekananda. And that is what I will try to do today with you. I have developed an ability to communicate some of these ideas thanks to the grace of Swami Vivekananda. And I hope that these ideas will prove beneficial at least for some of you. Today, I feel that what the youth of India require more than anything else is a 3-point agenda, a 3-point program, what I call as MIG, motivation, inspiration, and guidance. I think if these 3 are given to the youth of India today, I believe that they will become MiG fighters. They will not crash like the MiG planes, but they will become fighters, whom I call as the MiG fighters. Largely, I find in the last 10 years of my interaction with the youth that they are seeking motivation, they are seeking inspiration, and they are seeking guidance. At some point of time or the other, in fact, every human being in his or her life requires a push, especially when we hit a rough patch. When we are going through a rough patch in our lives, we look for a spark of inspiration, we look for some motivation, and we look for some guidance. Where do we look for this guidance? Where do we get this inspiration from? Where do we get this motivation from? It has to be from other individuals. It has to be from individuals who are living, or it has to be from icons like Swami Vivekananda, who may not be living, but whose presence continues to be felt even after their passing away. This is a unique phenomenon which you find with this personality, this extraordinary phenomenon called Swami Vivekananda, that nearly 150 years after his birth and 112 years after his passing away, a person who lived a very short span of life, less than 40 years, just 39 years in fact, has had such a tremendous impact on the psyche of humanity itself, and particularly on Indian society and nation. As time passes, in fact, we have an adage in English which says, out of sight, out of mind. When a person goes out of sight, he also goes out of our mind. His influence goes on declining with time. But the extraordinary situation we find, the phenomenon we find with Swami Vivekananda, is that as time passes, his influences has been growing day by day. It has been spreading all over the world. This year, in fact, the United Nations celebrated this 150th Jayanti celebrations of Swami Vivekananda. So what is it in his personality, in his life, that attracts people to him? Why is it that youth feel, at least some of them, continue to feel inspired by the life and teachings of Swami Vivekananda? This is the question that I will try to answer in a nutshell today. In fact, I myself was inspired by him, and my story is very small, but I still thought the story will be relevant to you because you're all students like I was when I joined the IIT Madras. And I was looking for answers away from home, experiencing a culture shock, as many of you perhaps would have done, will do, and homesick, and also passing through an existential crisis. A lot of youngsters, in fact, pass through an existential crisis sometimes in their lives, questioning the very meaning of existence itself. At such times, I find that the education system in India today, or the teachers around them, do not seem to provide the kind of, as I said, motivation, inspiration, and guidance that they require. It is at such times that icons like Swami Vivekananda or institutions like this Vivekananda Samiti come to their aid. Something similar happened to me. There was a Marathi Mandal, there is still a Marathi Mandal at the IIT Madras. Every year they celebrate the Ganesh Utsav with great pomp. And that year, I remember it was 1996, they had conducted an essay writing competition in which I happened to participate, and they gave me a small book of Swami Vivekananda. It is published even today by the Ramakrishna Mission. It is called Vivekananda, His Call to the Nation. So I happened to get a copy of this book, and just reading this small booklet containing the condensed life and teachings of Swami Vivekananda had a great impact on me. Many of those answers to that existential crisis that I was passing through, I was able to find those answers through the life and teachings of Swami Vivekananda. In fact, this small booklet continues to inspire many people, some of them very extraordinary people. I'm sure many of you have heard the story of this soldier called Kishan Baburao Hazare, who is today called as Anna Hazare. It is in fact the same book, Vivekananda, His Call to the Nation, which inspired him to become what he has become, an icon of the anti-corruption struggle in India. For the sake of those who do not know, his story goes like this, that he was a soldier in the Indian Army. He fought against Bangladesh in the 1971 war. The regiment in which he was came under heavy artillery fire from the Pakistani side, and it seems all his colleagues died instantly in the firing. He took a bullet to his forehead. He was seriously injured. He woke up in the hospital several days later, and he was told that all his friends, his colleagues, had died. He was the only one left alive. So this question came to bother him very deeply as to why is it that I am alive while all my friends are dead? Is life and death a matter of chance? Is it merely a matter of luck? This questioning, it seems, became very intense, and he went into a depression. He withdrew from the army, and he almost became suicidal. He went to the Delhi railway station with the intention of committing suicide, but he received a telegram from home that the marriage of his elder sister had just been fixed. So he felt that if he committed suicide, his sister's marriage would be affected, so he decided against it. When he was coming back from the Delhi railway station, his eye fell on this booklet. On the platform, there was a bookstall selling some books of Swamiji. This Vivekananda, His Call to the Nation, attracted his attention. He started reading it, and then he says that one particular teaching of Swami Vivekananda inspired him a lot. It is a letter which Swamiji wrote to the Prince of Mysore when he was in America. Swamiji writes in this letter, "My dear Prince, life is short, the vanities of this world are transient. They alone live who live for others, the rest are more dead than alive." So Kishan Baburao Hazare says when he read this, he found the purpose to his life. He felt that he was leading a selfish life all these years, and he decided to dedicate his life for the service of his countrymen. He went back to Ralegaon Siddhi, and we know the rest is history. We know what he has become today. It is this aspect of Swami Vivekananda's personality which is very, very magical, which is tremendous in its impact. We find that people who come into contact with him even accidentally, either with his life, with his teachings, after his passing away, seem to get transformed into something extraordinary in their own lives. And this you find amongst a diversity of people in India today, all over the world today. I will give you perhaps a few examples to drive the point home. Such chance encounters with Vivekananda transform people into extraordinary leaders. It is said that before he was called as Vivekananda, Swami Vivekananda was traveling under the disguise of the name called Sachidananda. As a young monk, he was traveling the length and breadth of this land, and he was going to Pune. He was traveling on a train to Pune. It is said that Balagangadhar Tilak, one of the key icons of the entire freedom struggle, also happened to be traveling on the same train. Now, some disciples, some admirers of this young monk called Sachidananda went to Balagangadhar Tilak and told him that, "Sir, there is a great monk, a man of great austerity, of great character, who is on this train, and he is visiting Pune. We wanted to know if you would like to invite him to your house. Would you like to be his host?" So it is said that Balagangadhar Tilak accepted this request. He hosted Swami Vivekananda in Pune. Initially, he said, "I will host him for 3 days," but he was so impressed by the personality of this young monk, it seems the interaction lasted for nearly 15 days. Later on, when Swami Vivekananda went to the Parliament of Religions at Chicago, and he delivered that famous address, and he became world famous, it is said that he received a letter from Balagangadhar Tilak asking him whether he was the same person who was traveled on the train and who had stayed with him. And Swamiji replied to him saying, "Yes, I am the same person who was called Sachidananda earlier." Now, what did this interaction produce? One, Tilak became, as I said, one of the great pioneers of the nationalist movement. Second is what we call as the Gita Rahasya. This great treatise on Karma Yoga, which Balagangadhar Tilak produced, was born of this 15 days interaction with Swami Vivekananda. So here is another example of how Swami Vivekananda transformed a great nationalist leader. In fact, he inspired the entire generation of freedom fighters in India. It would not be an exaggeration to say that India's freedom struggle would not have gathered momentum without the presence of Swami Vivekananda. Subhash Chandra Bose, for example, is said to have declared that I would have been sitting as a monk at the feet of Swami Vivekananda if I had not joined the freedom struggle. It is well known that Subhash Chandra Bose had intentions of renouncing the world, of becoming a monk in the Ramakrishna order, and then he was guided to become what he was. He became a revolutionary. A second example of how an encounter with Swami Vivekananda gave India another great revolutionary leader called Subhash Chandra Bose. Recently, the West Bengal government declassified certain documents which the British had kept under great secrecy. These were documents of containing information of espionage on these revolutionary freedom fighters like Aurobindo Ghosh, etc. The British spies used to spy on the Indian revolutionaries who were fighting against them, and these documents were declassified recently. One of the interesting facts which I read in these documents is this, that when the revolutionaries used to conduct meetings, secret meetings, they would hold secret meetings to plan their activities against the British and to recruit new youngsters into their groups. How would they conduct these meetings in secrecy? This was what the British spies were trying to study. How do you gain entry into these secret meetings? What makes you eligible to join these secret meetings? So the British spies report in these documents, these were telegrams, secret messages sent to the British authorities. The spies report that in most of the cases, the password used for gaining entry into the meetings of the revolutionaries was Vivekananda. The name of Vivekananda itself had become synonymous with the struggle against the British. And in fact, wherever the British raided these secret meetings of the revolutionaries, they used to confiscate the literature which was used to train these revolutionaries to fight against the British. They found that they would always inevitably find two types of literature with these revolutionaries. One was the Bhagavad Gita, the second was the lectures of Swami Vivekananda, particularly a series of lectures which are today published as lectures from Colombo to Almora. So Swamiji's life teachings had become the inspiration, had become the spark which ignited the entire freedom struggle. No less a person than Mahatma Gandhi said that I have read Swami Vivekananda and my love for the country has become a millionfold after reading him. So these are a few examples I wanted to give you about the freedom struggle. And as I said, the entire freedom struggle, it is not an exaggeration to say that the freedom struggle would not have gained momentum had it not been for the inspiration that Swami Vivekananda provided. Why I'm saying this is that I'm concerned about a certain trend amongst the Indian youth today, or the influence on the Indian youth today. What is this? That these real-life heroes who inspired our freedom struggle, or who laid the foundations of India. Now, as I said, they inspired a whole generation. These were the real-life heroes who impacted the minds of the youth of the country at that point of time. Now, who are the people impacting the minds of the youth of the country today? What is concerning to me is that I find that the media has projected certain real icons, real-life heroes, as I call them. And these real-life heroes are occupying excessively, I feel, misappropriating the mind space of the youth in public today. Now, please don't misunderstand my criticism. Criticism, I feel, at least constructive criticism, should help us to rethink and reform. It helps us in purifying certain negative influences on our mind. So please accept my criticism, examine my criticism in this angle. My criticism is not meant for creating a controversy. So when I say that real-life icons are dominating the youth's mind space today, I'm sure that most of us agree. An average youngster today, the amount of money and time that you spend in adoring and admiring these real-life heroes every week, I need not tell you, you are all aware of it. The question is, can these real-life heroes provide us with that motivation and inspiration and guidance which the youth require today? A Bollywood actor who promotes Gandhigiri in his movies, who's serving a jail sentence for possessing an AK-47 rifle, can such hypocrisy set an example to us in real life? Can they give us the motivation and the inspiration and the guidance that we require? The problem is that these real-life icons have relegated real-life icons like Arunima Sinha, Bhakti Sharma, and a host of them to the background. They do not get the recognition that they deserve, the front page recognition that they deserve in the media today, because these real-life icons have displaced them from the public mind. And he said, for the next 50 years, if you want India to grow, if you want India to prosper, make India your only God. That was a mantra that he gave to the freedom fighters of that time. Perhaps it is time for us to reinterpret that mantra a little for the modern youth today. And I would say, let us dethrone these real-life gods who have filled our mind. The media is supplying us with this negativity 24/7, and I think it is high time that we dethrone these real-life gods and replace them with some real-life gods if we want that motivation, inspiration, and guidance to take us into the right direction. Without going too much into this negativity, let me present before you the real-life hero that we are discussing today, called Swami Vivekananda. I was talking of hypocrisy. You look at the tremendous integrity in the lives of these great leaders. This is what attracts people to them. This is what makes them respectable. There is this beautiful, trivial incident, but a very touching incident in the life of the guru of Swami Vivekananda called Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. It is said that one day, a mother came to him, a lady came to him with her small child and said, "Sir, my child is very fond of sweets. He is in fact addicted to sweets. And even if I tell him, even if I ask him to give up sweets, he does not listen to me. He's very rebellious. So I have brought him to you with the hope that if you ask him to stop eating sweets, he will, listen to you because you are a respected saint." So it seems Paramahamsa replied. He said, "Is that so? I shall do it, but not today. You please bring him back to me 2 weeks later." And the lady was, it seems, very puzzled as to why he was asking her to come back 2 weeks later, but she obeyed his command, came back 2 weeks later to him. And Ramakrishna Paramahamsa did what she requested. He blessed the child and said, "Stop eating sweets because this is not good for your health." Now the lady asked him, "Sir, why didn't you do this earlier, 2 weeks ago? Why is it that you asked me to come 2 weeks later?" He said, "Madam, I myself am fond of this Bengali sweet called sandesh. Every day when I have dinner, I eat this piece of sweet called sandesh. So when I am eating sweets, how can I ask the child to stop eating sweets? This is why I asked you to come 2 weeks later. I have stopped eating sweets now, and I have the authority to tell him to stop eating sweets." This is real life integrity, my dear friends, absolute integrity even in the most smallest details of our life. It is people who maintain this integrity in their lives who can call themselves leaders, who have the ability to inspire the youth, who have the ability to inspire a whole generation. Real life heroes with hypocrisy cannot inspire us. What inspires us in Swami Vivekananda, what draws youth to him, is his tremendous courage. I call it as a death-defying courage. It is literally death-defying. In fact, if you look at incidents from his life, you will find this tremendous courage in him which attracts us to him. He was a young person like us. He was full of energy. He was full of courage. In fact, this is what defines youth. It is our risk-taking ability which defines youth. And Swami Vivekananda displayed this risk-taking ability to the extreme, to the most extraordinary level. I'll tell you 2 incidents I'd like to share from his life which demonstrate this extraordinary courage of Swami Vivekananda. One is an incident in the early life when he had become a disciple of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. This was before he went to the World Parliament of Religions. He was traveling as a parivrajaka, as a sannyasin on foot. He traveled the length and breadth of this land on foot. And it seems at one point of time, he became a little dejected. He was searching for a mission for his life. He felt that his guru had left behind a very specific task for him, but he did not have clarity on what that task was. He went on searching for it. He could not get clear answers, and he felt that his life was going waste. So it is said that he went deep inside a forest, and he found that there was an old tigress with her cubs there, and it was almost in terminal condition. It was unable to hunt. It was very weak. And he decided to give his body to this tiger. He thought, anyway, my life is a waste. Let me give up this useless life, this useless body. Let me become food for this old tigress so that she can feed her cubs. And a miracle happened. The story goes that the tiger did not attack him. It just walked away with its cubs, leaving behind a legacy that we all cherish today called Swami Vivekananda. The second is a similar incident which happens later. After the World Parliament of Religions, we all know that Swami Vivekananda went on a second voyage to the West, especially to England. He made a band of committed disciples in England where he used to take classes on the Vedanta. One of them was a famous person called Sister Nivedita, Margaret Noble, an Irish patriot, who was transformed by coming into contact with him, and she became more Indian than many of us. So this band of disciples, it seems, one day were taking a stroll in a park in England, in London, after the Vedanta class in the evening. And when they were strolling in the park, there was a bull tied to one end of the park. Suddenly, this bull got enraged and broke its chains, broke its rope, and started charging towards them. Now, seeing the bull charging towards them, it seems most of Swamiji's disciples panicked and they ran helter-skelter. They jumped over the fence and ran away. But there was one old lady in the group, and she was unable to run away. She could only walk very slowly. She was limping. Now imagine what Swami Vivekananda would do in this situation. Now imagine what your six-pack heroes, real-life heroes, will do in this situation. Put them in front of the bull, and you will see that 99% of them will perhaps run away, as some of the disciples did. Swami Vivekananda, it seems, went and stood between the bull and that old lady. The bull came charging towards him, stared at him for a minute. Just about a feet away from him, it stopped. Once again, a miracle happened. It looked into his eyes, stared at him for a moment, and just walked away. It did not hit him. It did not gore him as was expected, but it just walked away. Now, this old lady, it seems, went and asked a question to Swamiji. She was thinking, now when this bull was charging at him, what was Swamiji thinking? And it was a mischievous question. She went and asked, Swamiji, do you feel the fear of death like all of us do? Did you also experience the fear of death as we do? What were you thinking? Tell me honestly, Swamiji, what were you thinking when the bull was charging at you? And it seems without blinking an eyelid, here came a spontaneous reply from Swami Vivekananda. He said, Madam, I was not thinking of death. I was trying to calculate the speed of the bull so that I would know that when it would hit me, to what distance I would be thrown off. So this was what was going on in Swami Vivekananda's mind. Here is a real-life hero, my dear friends, as I said, with a courage that could defy death itself. He was absolutely not afraid of death. It is such heroes who can provide us with great inspiration. Second quality which I find greatly appealing, inspiring in Swami Vivekananda, and perhaps every young person will also connect with me when I say this, was his great sense of scientific inquiry and temper. He would always test every idea that came to him thoroughly before he would accept it. And this is what he taught his disciples also, that whatever I have taught you, don't accept it blindly. You have the freedom to examine it, cross-examine it, test it thoroughly before you accept it. It is this logical approach, very scientific approach, which I find very appealing in the personality of Swami Vivekananda. And we know that he tested his own guru, no other than this great saint called Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, exhaustively and extensively before he accepted him as his guru, before he became the disciple of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. So there is this incident again that Ramakrishna Paramahamsa had taken a vow not to touch money. He considered money to be equal to mud. He had, in fact, taken a vow symbolically by going to the Ganga. He held a rupee in one hand and he held a clod of earth, clay, in the other hand and said, both are equal to me from this day and I shall never touch money again. Now, Swami Vivekananda really wanted to test him and see if he would, practice this vow literally. And it seems when Ramakrishna Paramahamsa went to the temple of Kali at Dakshineshwar to worship, what he did was he took a rupee coin and put it under his pillow without his knowledge to see what would happen. And it seems at night when Ramakrishna Paramahamsa returned to his room, he slept on the cot. He felt a burning sensation in his body. He jumped up and he said, there is something wrong in the cot. And then Swamiji Vivekananda was watching all this quietly. His disciples searched through the entire cot and found this rupee coin and threw it away. And only then Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was able to sleep peacefully after that rupee coin was thrown away. So again, this great integrity in his guru and this ability to test his own master, this courage, this freedom of thought to test his own teacher even to the hilt exhaustively before he accepted Ramakrishna Paramahamsa as his guru. I think this is what youngsters want to do in their lives also. They want to be given the freedom to test every idea that is given to them. They do not accept anything easily. Youngsters are rebellious. And this is why Vivekananda appeals to them, because he wants us to be rebellious. He does not ask us to accept anything blindly. The third quality I find inspiring in him is his great compassion, is his empathy, extraordinary compassion and empathy. There is this amazing incident again from his life that in his last days, when he was not in very good health, he was one day sleeping at Belur in his room in Calcutta. Somewhere around midnight, around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, he suddenly woke up and there was an attender who was looking after him, a disciple who was positioned to look after him because he was not in good health. He called this disciple, he called this attender and said, I have a wrenching pain in my heart. I feel as though my heart is being wrung like a wet towel. Something has happened somewhere, I do not know what. I feel that a great number of people are suffering somewhere. And after some time, it seems the pain subsided and he fell asleep again. Next day morning, the news came to them that there was a massive earthquake somewhere far away, 2,000 miles away perhaps, in the islands of the Pacific, and many thousands of people had died in that earthquake. Swamiji could literally feel the pain of people who were suffering, miles away. That was the kind of extraordinary compassion which he could feel. It is this quality in him which appeals to me. Now look at our leaders today. People who say कि ठंड से कोई नहीं मरता है, लोग मरते हैं तो बंगलों में भी मरते हैं, यहाँ पे भी मरते हैं, वहाँ पे भी मरते हैं. The level of compassion that our leaders are displaying today is equally extraordinary. So as I said, these real life heroes have to be dethroned today. We need heroes of extraordinary compassion and empathy like Swami Vivekananda, and it is this empathy that he wanted us to cultivate. There is yet another incident like this, that one day a great scholar, a Sanskrit scholar, came to him to discuss certain matters of philosophy. It was a time when a large portion of North India, particularly Bengal, was going through famine, severe famine. People were dying of lack of food. And Swamiji was busy, Vivekananda was busy organizing relief missions in supplying food and medicines to the afflicted. So it seems instead of discussing these points of Vedanta, the discussion went on for nearly 3 hours on how to organize these relief missions. Now at the end of this discussion, it seems the scholar, the Panditji, became a little disappointed, and he said, I came all the way hoping that I could discuss philosophy, Vedanta with you, and all we could discuss was mundane matters of the world. And to this, it seems Swamiji replied seriously. He said, sir, as long as even a dog in this country is hungry, I will not discuss Vedanta. And my first duty becomes to feed every man in this country to the last dog. This is my Vedanta. This is my practical Vedanta. It is only after this that I shall discuss philosophy with you. It is this extraordinary compassion of Swami Vivekananda, my dear friends, which appeals to me, and I feel this is what appeals to people all over the world. And as I said, even today, millions of youngsters, people like Anna Hazare, continue to be inspired by him. The other day, I was reading the story of a young man from Calcutta called Babar Ali from West Bengal. You must have heard about him. He was interviewed recently on CNN IBN, and he's entered the Guinness Book of World Records today as the world's youngest principal. He is 19 years old today. At the age of 12, he became a principal of a small village school in a village in West Bengal. So when CNN IBN was interviewing him, they asked him, what made you do this? At the age of 12, what inspired you to go and start a school, an evening school, and become its principal? And this was the reply. Babar Ali says, I read Swami Vivekananda, and I read this line where he says, they alone live who live for others, and this is what inspired me to start this evening school. So as I said, people from various walks of life, from different religions, from different faiths, from different backgrounds, come into contact with Swami Vivekananda, and something happens. The spark awakens, and they're completely transformed. So here is Babar Ali in the field of education. Let me take you back to another field. You've heard about this famous institution called the Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore. I don't know how many of you are aware that this institution was started again with the inspiration of Swami Vivekananda. A chance encounter between Jamshedji Tata and Swami Vivekananda led to the founding of the Indian Institute of Science. It is said that on his second voyage to the West, on the ship, Swami Vivekananda happened to meet Jamshedji Tata on the ship. And he asked him, sir, where are you going and why are you going to the America? And Jamshedji said, I want to learn the techniques of the iron and steel industry. I want to start a plant for manufacturing steel in India. So Swamiji told him, he said, it's all right, it is very good what you're doing, but I have a dream. And the dream is, he said that I went to Japan on his first voyage to the West before going to Chicago. Swamiji had visited Japan, and he was impressed by the progress that Japan had made in the fields of science and technology. And he always dreamt that India should have such institutes where scientific research could be done at a level on par with all other institutes of science all over the world. So he told Jamshedji that this is my dream, that when you go back to India, please consider doing this, set up an institute of scientific research which will be on par with all other institutes in the world. And it is said that Jamshedji came back, he started this Institute of Scientific Research in Bangalore called the Indian Institute of Science. Then he sent a letter to Swami Vivekananda asking him to become the Vice Chancellor, the first Vice Chancellor of the Indian Institute of Science. And Swamiji declined, of course, saying that I have other urgent matters to look into. He was setting up the institution called the Ramakrishna Mission, and he said that I am not fit to be the Vice Chancellor of this Indian Institute of Science. He was humble enough to decline that offer. So people from various walks of life, my dear friends, find inspiration even today, to this day, from the life of Swami Vivekananda. And yet another quality, the final quality that I would like to present in front of you, is his great leadership. He was a great leader, but he was a very different kind of a leader, in the sense that we find that many leaders that we encounter today, particularly the real life leaders that I was talking about, always say that everybody should follow me. But Swami Vivekananda never asked us to follow him. In fact, what he wanted was that all of us should become Vivekanandas. In fact, that was his prediction. He would say that there will come a time in India where in every street there will be a Vivekananda. That was his dream. He wanted every young man in India to become a Vivekananda, not simply to imitate a Vivekananda. Now, there is a difference. Please understand. It is when he says that he wants us to become Vivekanandas, he wants us to be original in our own style of thinking or in our expression of our own talents. He does not expect us to imitate him. In fact, in his last days, when he would talk of his own passing away, he was planning his own passing away. Disciples would often come and ask him, why do you talk about your passing away? And the reply that would come from him, he would say, I am like a banyan tree. I am a huge tree, and if I continue to linger on here, it will hinder smaller trees from growing. And therefore, it is good for this banyan tree to grow so that there is a chance for the smaller trees, smaller plants to grow. This is the true sign of leadership, my dear friends, that a true leader plans for the time when he is not around. He grooms the next generation to become leaders. He inspires leadership qualities in the next generation. He does not expect others to follow him. It is this extraordinary quality in Swami Vivekananda which appeals to me, and I hope that it will also appeal to you also, that he wanted us to become Vivekanandas. He wanted us to be original in our own ways. Finally, the message that I would like to give you today. There was yet another great freedom fighter who was inspired by him, called Aurobindo Ghosh. Through Aurobindo Ghosh, who went to Pondicherry and settled in Pondicherry, another leader was inspired called Subramanya Bharati. Subramanya Bharati was the icon of freedom struggle in Tamil Nadu. Subramanya Bharati in turn was also inspired by Sister Nivedita. There's a beautiful incident in the life of Aurobindo Ghosh that one day he was sitting in Pondicherry, he was doing yoga sadhana, and it seems at one point of time in the sadhana, he felt stuck. The practice that he was doing was not delivering results as he wanted it to, and he was stuck. He did not know what to do. And it seems there was a Naga sadhu living in Pondicherry, a wandering monk who was living there. Suddenly, this monk made an appearance one day when Aurobindo Ghosh and Subramanya Bharati were sitting together, having a cup of tea, chatting over a cup of tea. This Naga sadhu appeared suddenly. He was a reclusive sadhu, would not give appearances easily, but suddenly he appeared, and he overturned this cup of tea that Sri Aurobindo had kept on the table, poured the entire tea out, put it upside down, and went away. So Subramanya Bharati, it seems, was puzzled. He asked Aurobindo Ghosh, what did he just do? What does he mean by that? And Aurobindo Ghosh said, he's asking me to empty my cup. He's asking me to empty the cup of my mind. He wants me to start afresh. He has understood why I have been stuck in this sadhana. And that is perhaps a small thing that all of us need to do in this momentous occasion on this historic day of the 151st birthday of Swami Vivekananda. Can we do this? Can we empty the cup of our minds, empty it of negativity that has been filled into it, as I said, by negative influences around us, and restart, thinking on new lines, fresh lines, and brilliant lines which Swami Vivekananda has given us. If we can do this, the change that all of us have been aspiring to in the fields, whether it is of politics or if it is of society or education, I am sure that those dreams will materialize. Swami Vivekananda said that his life and his teachings will continue to be relevant for the next 1,500 years, and there is a lot of work in front of us to do. I feel that all of us should take a resolution on this historic day and start thinking to become Vivekanandas. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Namaste.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर। आशा है कि हम सभी आपके विचारों से अवश्य ही प्रेरणा लेंगे और अपने जीवन में अधिक से अधिक उतारने का उन्हें प्रयास